Hello students, welcome to my class. Are you preparing yourself for the board exam? Are you feeling it's difficult to remember the concepts that you study? Well, this video might help you to remember the concepts well. Now let's study how to study and revise better. The method that we have to adopt while studying is the WH method. This method will certainly enable you to understand the concepts better and remember the concept for a long time. You can adopt the WH method to study and revise majority of the concepts that contains lengthy explanations. You can adopt this method to study the 3 or 4 marks questions which are frequently asked in the board exams, which requires an elaborated explanation or explanation in brief. If you follow this method to study and revise, I will assure you that you will become confident to answer 3 and 4 marks question in the board exams. Now let's see what the WH method is and how it is to be adopted in studying and revising a concept. Are you getting the feeling that you are already familiar with the word WH? Of course, you are already familiar with the WH words, which you have learnt in your language class. Can you recall those WH words? Try to recall them. I hope you have recalled all the WH words. The first one, where. Second one, when. Third one, why. The next one, who. How and what. These are the WH words which you have learnt in your language class. Are you feeling that I'm taking you out of the concept? Because I started this session with the intention to make you familiar with the WH method that can help you to revise and study the concepts. But now I'm talking about the WH words which you have learnt in your language class. Certainly, I'm not going to talk about those WH words now, and it's not a grammar session. But the same WH words which you have learnt in your grammar class, such as where, when, why, who, how, and what, will help you as a method to study any concepts that requires lengthy explanation. I already told you that if you follow the WH method, you will become confident enough to answer 3 and 4 marks question in your board exams. Usually, when you attempt a 3 marks question, it requires you to answer either in 6 to 8 points or 6 to 8 sentences. In the same way, when you are answering a 4 marks question in your board exam, It requires you to answer in 8 to 10 sentences or 8 to 10 points. When you adopt the WH method, as you can see on the screen, if you are going to explain and answer those 3 and 4 marks question using this method, already there will be 6 points in your pocket to answer those questions. So no need to be afraid of the 3 and 4 marks questions and be tensed that you are not able to remember the lengthy answers. Adopt this method and study. Now I am going to show you practically on how to adopt this method while you study a concept. Being a social science teacher, I am going to take a concept from social to make you familiar with the WH method. You can study anything and comprehend better when you take active participation in the process of learning. I want you people to participate actively in this session. So I have a task for you. You can observe an image on the screen. The task is you have to identify this place. Observe the image properly and identify the place which is shown on the image. By this, I will also identify what concept I am going to discuss in this session. Well, I hope you have identified the place. It's Jallianwala Bagh Park at Amritsar in Punjab, and the concept that we are going to discuss in this session is about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre using the WH method. And now let us learn about the Jallianwala Bagh massacre through the WH method. The first question that we have to get the answer is, where did Jallianwala Bagh massacre happen? Observe the screen. There you can see a map showing the location where Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened. Observe the map and answer the question, where did Jallianwala Bagh massacre happen? The first point will be about the location of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. And the answer is, Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened at Jallianwala Bagh Park in Amritsar in Punjab. And now let's move on to the next WH question, that is, we should know, when did this Jallianwala Bagh massacre happen? The second point that we are learning is about the day when Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened. And the answer is Please answer this question by observing the screen. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre happened on 13th April 1919. Now let's learn, why did this Jallianwala Bagh massacre happen and what caused this incident to take place. You can see the image of two eminent freedom fighters of Punjab region on the screen, Dr. Saifuddin and Dr. Satyappa. These two got arrested by the British, and their arrest was protested widely in Punjab. And in order to protest against this arrest, the people gathered at Jallianwala Bagh on 13th April 1919. Why the British arrested Dr. Saifuddin and Dr. Satyappa? Now, let's see the reason behind their arrest. And the reason was the Rowlat Act, which was passed by the British. Now let's learn, what was this Rowlat Act. The Rowlat Act was a law which was passed by the British, which enabled the police to arrest any person out of suspicion, and they could declare him as an offender. So this made the police during the British period powerful of arresting any person out of suspicion, and through this law even they could detain any person to an indefinite period of time in the cells without producing that particular person before the court. Usually, the person who got arrested by the police will be submitted before the magistrate or before the court within 24 hours. But by this act, the police got the power to detain that person in the cell without producing him before the court. And the main intention behind passing this Rowlat Act was to control the nationalists and to control the freedom movement, which was rampant in India during this time. The British used this law as a weapon to arrest the Indian national freedom fighters. How did the Indians react to this law? Did they welcome it? Or were they afraid of this law? Did they stop the freedom fighting? No. They opposed this law. Even the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi himself, called for a nationwide Hartal to be observed on April 6th of 1919. Thus, throughout the nation, the act was opposed through huge public marches, meetings, along with the boycotts, because This law was against the freedom of expression of the Indians. Dr. Saifuddin and Dr. Satyappa led the protests against the British and against the Rowlat Act in Punjab province, and their arrest by the British led to a situation of unrest at Amritsar. This is why the people gathered at Jallianwala Bagh Park and protested against the arrest of Dr. Saifuddin and Dr. Satyappa. The next point to learn about Jallianwala Bagh massacre is who was responsible for Jallianwala Bagh massacre. You can observe an image of a personality on the screen. Try to identify him and answer who was responsible for Jallianwala Bagh massacre. I hope you have answered correctly, and it's General Dhir. General Dhir was responsible for Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Now let's study how did this Jallianwala Bagh massacre happen. The British prohibited all public meetings in Punjab as the situation in Amritsar went out of control. The British prohibited all public meetings in Punjab, but the announcement of such a ban was made only in the selected areas of Amritsar, not throughout the city and throughout Punjab. 13th April 1919 was an auspicious occasion of Baisakhi festival. As Amritsar was an important center of trade activities in Punjab, majority of the people from the nearby villages of Amritsar came there, and many of them were unaware of the prohibition made by the British. Even the Indian National Congress leaders had decided to hold a protest against the arrest of Dr. Satyappa and Dr. Saifuddin on the same day. So they made an announcement about the meeting that is going to be held by evening on 13th April 1919. And by afternoon, around 3 o'clock, around 20,000 people gathered at Jallianwala Bagh Park to attend the meeting and to protest against the arrest of Dr. Satyappa and Dr. Saifuddin. But majority of them came there to witness what was going on, and majority of them had no intention to participate directly in the protests. Out of curiosity, majority of the people gathered at Jallianwala Bagh Park. Now, can you identify this personality which you are able to see on the screen? Absolutely, it's General Dhir, who came to the spot with his troop and surrounded the park. General Dhir came with the intention to punish the people. So he did not give any warning to the people who had gathered at Jallianwala Bagh Park. Instead, he ordered his troop to shoot on the crowd, and the firing went on for several minutes until the ammunition of the British exhausted. The people who gathered at Jallianwala Bagh Park had no intention of creating unrest, and even they did not possess any weapon. Still, the British punished them by opening a fire, and this cruel massacre led to the death of 380 innocent people and thousands of people injured. These numbers were given by the official data of the British, but it is said to be a false one as the numbers were different and even more. And the next WH question that will help us to learn about Jallianwala Bagh massacre is, what was the impact or what was the result of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre? By this we can end up our answer systematically. And now let us see what was the impact or what was the result of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. This Jallianwala Bagh massacre resulted in the declaration of military rule in Punjab by the British. And many Indians opposed this cruel act, and even Mahatma Gandhi ji was pained by this cruel act, and he decided to launch the non-cooperation movement. Can you identify this personality which you are able to see on the screen? I think you have identified. He is none other than Rabindranath Tagore, and he returned his knighthood award which he received from the British, opposing this mindless violence. Now, can you identify this revolutionary freedom fighter of India? He is Udham Singh, one who killed General Dyer for this cruel massacre in 1940 in England itself. Thus, he took the revenge of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. This is how the WH method is to be applied while studying and revising a concept. And it's my suggestion, always end up your study or revision by evaluating yourself about the comprehension of the concept. Now it's time to check your comprehension about the concept Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Please answer the question and revise the concept. Can you name the act which was passed by the British that resulted in Jallianwala Bagh massacre? Please recall. Absolutely, it was the Rowlat Act. Can you identify these leaders who got arrested by the British for leading protests at Amritsar? Hoping you have answered correctly. They are Dr. Saifuddin and Dr. Satyappa. Can you identify this place where Jallianwala Bagh massacre took place? You are perfectly right. It's the Jallianwala Bagh Park at Amritsar in Punjab. Can you identify who was responsible for Jallianwala Bagh massacre? Hoping you have identified him correctly. It's none other than the General Dyer. Can you recall what are the results of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre? You can take the help of the images on the screen to recall the results of the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. I hope you have completed recalling. The Jallianwala Bagh massacre resulted in the death of 380 people and thousands of people were injured. And even the military rule was declared in Punjab. And opposing the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, Mahatma Gandhi decided to launch the non-cooperation movement. And even Rabindranath Tagore returned his knighthood, which he received from the British, opposing the inhuman massacre at Jallianwala Bagh. It's time to wind up, students. That's it. Please apply this WH method to learn the other concepts that come in social science and even in the other subjects. And if you feel this video was helpful and the method was helpful for your studies and even for your revision, please like the video and subscribe to the channel and give your valuable suggestions through the comments. Conveying my best wishes to the board exam, let's sign off and let's meet in the next video.